This evening, we're going to start out first with the lesson that you would be doing today if you were engaged in the one-year practice. So we're up to lesson number 94, almost a third of the way through the book. And it is a transformative journey. It is an amazing process that we experience when we actually launch into A Course in Miracles and start reading the text, but more importantly, start doing the lessons. So the lesson for today, lesson number 94, is one of the key lessons that comes up throughout the text as well as in the workbook over and over again, because it is without a doubt the most powerful opportunity that is presented to us with the Course to transform our sense of identity and thereby transform our experience of life. And the lesson for today goes, I am as God created me. And delving into these ideas, we start off with this first paragraph. It says, today we continue with the one idea which brings complete salvation. The one statement which makes all forms of temptation powerless. The one thought which renders the ego silent and entirely undone. Now, obviously, you have to set aside time throughout the day to practice these ideas. This is not something that you just mentally dialogue and kind of do a surface gloss over. You really want to bring yourself to a state of inner peace, inner tranquility, and embrace the ideas that the lessons are presenting to you. If you're doing that, or if you will at some point in the future do that, you will discover that the lessons have an astonishing effect. So it's really up to you as to how much the lesson itself penetrates and manages to move through that veneer of an ego that we have created. It goes on to say, you are as God created you. The sounds of this world are still. The sights of this world disappear. And all the thoughts that this world ever held are wiped away forever by this one idea. So it's more than just a statement. It is an idea that we have to embrace. We have to pull it in. We have to, feast upon it. It literally is something that we imbibe. Here is salvation accomplished. Here is sanity restored. True light is strength, and strength is sinlessness. If you remain as God created you, you must be strong, and light must be in you. He who ensured your sinlessness must be the guarantee of strength and light as well. And the He that we're referencing here is God itself. So God assures us through the Course that we never fell from grace. There was no original sin. That's one of the most popular litanies of the Catholic Church and a multitude of other religious organizations. They have that little idea that somehow we managed to fall from grace. And with A Course in Miracles, the truth restores us to our rightful identity. We created an ego, but the ego can be discarded. It can be abandoned. It can be stepped out of. And the ego is where all the fear and anger and frustration and loathing and, all of these ancient wounds that we carry with us are stored. So we have to be willing to release that sense of a separate self in order to gain benefit from what the Course is teaching us. It says, the light is strength, and strength is sinlessness. If you remain as God created you, you must be strong, and light must be in you. He who ensured your sinlessness must be the guarantee of strength and light as well. You are as God created you. Darkness cannot obscure the glory of God's Son. You stand in light, strong in the sinlessness in which you were created, and in which you will remain throughout eternity. So this gives us an image of pure duality, in the sense that our true self, our true existence, who we actually are, is blinded from us. It is veiled from us because of the ego. We have embraced the ego. We have crafted the ego. You know, the ego is not something that existed before you came into this world. It was that temptation to experience separation and to create an ego that gave you that sense of separation from yourself and from all of your brothers and sisters and from God itself. So when we're looking at these ideas, it really is bringing up a lot of issues that are fundamental to the ideas of self and identity. And the more that we can attune ourselves to our true identity, in other words, the Christ, or if you're from an Eastern discipline, the Buddha, you know, there are all these different concepts peppered throughout the world of this dualistic nature. The ego on one hand, the true self, the Christ self, the God in manifestation. In other words, God created you in God's image. So you are God in manifestation. That's your true self. And once you begin to recognize that and to put your attention on that, the ego starts to collapse because it has nothing to offer you. The whole idea of separation is built around the belief that by separating yourself from God, you can go and experience a life separate and apart. And that simply is not true. That's an impossibility. We get seduced by this ego identity, and we actually believe that we have somehow managed to separate ourselves. But the truth is, God is life itself. So, you know, we keep going back to that idea that God created you in God's image and likeness, and God is life. If you were capable of removing yourself from God, then you would experience death. Because anything apart from God, obviously, is going to be death. Here we've got, again, the idea of duality, opposites. So your true self, the Christ within you, is the cornerstone of the entire philosophy of A Course in Miracles. You are as God created you, and that is an inviolate circumstance. It can never be altered, because the will of God ultimately is your will. Even though you may be indulging your ego right now, your true will is life. You want life. You believe in life. You love life. So we're getting down to some very core issues here. We're getting down to a fundamental level of self-examination, where we begin to realize that everything that the ego has involved us in has really failed to fulfill us. It's failed to accomplish anything. It's failed to succeed. And the truth is, as we continue to embrace life and love, and they're interchangeable, they're synonymous. You know, life is love, love is life, love is God, God is life, God is love. All of these words are an attempt to get you to recognize your true existence. And within that true existence, there is a sense of invulnerability, a sense of peace. You know, as you're stepping out of this ego, you're beginning to step out of identifying yourself with the body. And the body is very fragile. You know, I mean, how many people died over the course of the winter from this kind of flu and that kind of flu, and, you know, all these horrific bugs that were airborne floating around. You could just be walking down the street and this random bug could go up your nose, and at the end of 4 or 5 days, you're in the hospital on a ventilator, and boom, you're gone into your next incarnation. So when we tout the human body as being this marvel, this magical thing, this wonderful thing to embrace, and that it is the true identity that we really want to cling to, you have to start to get honest at some point here. You have to get down on your knees and look at what's being written in the dirt in front of you. You know, it's the way Jesus addressed the woman who was accused of prostitution. If you remember that story in the New Testament, he didn't respond to people verbally, but he wrote his response in the dust so that all could see. And that, I think, is one of the most important aspects of the way the Course works here for us. It gets us to a point where we're actually looking at these ideas. We're looking into this earthly realm. We're looking into the dust, and the dust is what our body is made of. And it will return to dust. You know, it's only by our exercising our will to inhabit a body that the body actually exists. The body didn't come first. You know, the body is not your source of life. The truth is that as soon as you remove the spirit, as soon as you remove consciousness, the body begins to disintegrate. So all of these different ideas are starting to congeal. They're starting to come together and coalesce. And we're beginning to realize that the truth of our existence is so exquisitely and profoundly simple. And yet we have obscurificated that truth. We have done everything conceivable to hide that truth. And we have complicated our lives to the point where most of the time we're trying to convince ourselves that we're happy. But the truth is, we're always chasing. We're chasing money, we're chasing sex, we're chasing friendships, we're chasing this, we're chasing that. And we constantly have this sense of emptiness. The emptiness is simply the illusion that we have managed to disconnect from our source. It's all very, very simple. It says, today we will again devote the first 5 minutes of each waking hour to the attempt to feel the truth in you. Begin these times of searching with these words. I am as God created me. I am his son eternally. If you have problems with gender, then, you know, rescript it. I am as God created me. I am her daughter eternally. Whatever it takes. You know, when we're approaching this from that mundane level of, you know, trying to control the words that were scribed, then we're missing the point. We're missing the lessons that are being presented to us. So we have to, you know, adapt it to whatever our little peccadillos are in demand of. But the truth is that this goes so far beyond duality, and it goes so far beyond gender, that we leave those concepts in the dust as we are pulling ourselves up out of the dust. And that's the beauty of it. We're on a journey that is going to restore us not only to our true identity, but to sanity. And believe me, if you think that the world you inhabit is sane, you haven't been looking around. Because on every quarter, you have people doing things that are absolutely insane. People accosting each other, people hurting each other, people bombing each other, people burning each other. See, and this world is never going to change as far as that goes. That's what we designed this world for. The only way the world is going to be transformed is when we start to recognize the world is happening in our mind. The world is our projection of who we are, of what we are, or of what we believe ourselves to be. And the more that we start to engage with an awareness of peace within us, a peace that is welling up from the core of our being, the more the outer circumstances are going to begin to soften. The more you're going to be able to see the presence of God in people and in animals and in situations. So there's a lot that is being offered to you through A Course in Miracles. And it is a very, very simple and leisurely journey if you decide to go ahead and engage in it. And it's not even something that's going to cost you money. I mean, if you don't want to buy the book, that's fine. There are 2 different sites on the internet where the entire Course in Miracles is published. So you can go online, you can read the text, you can read the daily lessons. It is incredibly accessible. It's presented to you with love and is coming to you from love, from the foundation of love throughout eternity, from God itself. This is a personal gift that God is presenting to all of us. And that sounds kind of crazy, but that really is the truth of the matter. There has never been, in the last 50,000 years of human history, a series of concepts so perfectly consolidated that can give you the avenue out of the madness, quite like A Course in Miracles can. So give it a spin. You know, it's not like it's going to cost you money. The only cost is going to be time. And if you can't make time to transform your life and to step out of unhappiness and step out of blockage and step out of frustration, then maybe you need to reevaluate your usage of your time. Because most assuredly, once you start the journey along with these ideas, these principles, you will begin to lighten your load. You will begin to experience that exuberance that comes from feeling the pure core of life itself. So anyway, and now, the insanity is a direct result of the emptiness we find in ego. That's absolutely true. I'm assuming that Liani posted that under Humanity Healing. Loving others is so rewarding. That is absolutely a fact. And Marie-Claude Gilbert is from Canada. She sends me a hi. Hi, Marie. I assume that you're probably got a little bit of Arcadian, Cajun, French-Canadian stuff going on there with Marie-Claude. But anyway, all these different things that we create for our identity. You know, I am a Francophile. I love everything French. And my ancestry, I go back to, you know, a Canadian trapper who came down from Quebec and married a Potawatomi woman, and that started a whole thread of my ancestry. But again, all these things are simply, there's simply a diversion from our recognizing our truth. And we were just talking about that. You know, at the core of it all, I am as God created me. I am God in manifestation. I am God, the perfect being. So even though we have our allegiances to our ancestry and our allegiances to all these different causes, the actual truth of the situation is that above and beyond all of these ephemeral identities, there is a true identity that Jesus was able to very magnificently manifest. You know, imagine a man who has been dragged through the thorn bushes and has been forced to drag his own cross up a hill and is crucified, and at his final moments, in his final statement, he releases everybody involved in this drama. He says, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do." And that's very true. All of our madness, all of our attempts to kill each other, all of our assaults on each other, that is our insanity. We know not what we do. So here the man Jesus was able to completely forgive the world. And as a result of that, the resurrection occurred. He knew that he was not a body. He knew that he was eternal life. And whether you believe the literal story or not is irrelevant. The truth is, these are universal principles that we can build on. This is a lighthouse in a very stormy, stormy night. The sea is crashing all around us, but the light is there. And if you follow the light, if you pay attention, then all of a sudden your life will start to soften. The storm will begin to diminish, and the darkness will undoubtedly begin to lessen, and a dawn will appear on the horizon. So, you know, we're not into this journey as an intellectual pursuit. If that's the way you're approaching it, you're going to miss the point. Mythology, whether it is based on fact or inspiration, nonetheless gives us an alternative to what we have constructed as a possibility of what life can be. You know, we created this world, we created these difficult times, but we have the mythology from the past, whether it's Native American mythology, Norse mythology, Celtic mythology, Abrahamic mythology, and that covers, you know, Islam, the Arabs, it covers Christianity, and it covers Judaism. So everything that's going on in the world is an illusion. And that's the way that we are able to dispel the illusion, is to begin to realize what we believe to be real, what our senses are trying to convince us is real, is actually ephemeral. It's dust in the wind. So going on a little bit further here, I've only got a couple more minutes, but the other thing I was going to talk to you about tonight comes from chapter 19 in the course. And this deals with another obstacle that we have that's going on in our lives. You know, the obstacle to truth, the obstacle to awakening, the obstacle to connecting to life itself, universal life, all over the place, is something that we conscientiously avoid looking at. We are brilliant at avoiding looking at the truth. We will go out of our way to distract ourselves. Oh, there's my favorite musician. I got to go watch, you know, this new video. Oh, there's an argument going on downstairs. I got to go down and break up the mob scene. You know, all of this stuff is just a diversion. So it says the fourth obstacle that is really blocking you, and this is probably the most important obstacle, is the fear of God. Isn't that an interesting idea? Oh, I love you, God. I want you, God. I need you in my life, God. Oh, mercy me. Look at me. I'm righteous. I'm on my knees. I'm praying. I'm praying in the morning, praying at night, yada, yada, yada. But what would happen if you would stop all of the gibberish going on in your mind, which is forcing God's presence away from you? You would bring all that to cessation and allow the presence of God to fill up that empty space within you. It would be astonishing. And at the same time, it is the most terrifying thought that you can present to your ego. Your ego is going to flip out as soon as you start contemplating these ideas. And it's going to take you a while to get the ego under control. You know, it's like, I grew up in Colorado in the 50s, and ranch country and rodeos, and I bounced around on the back of a couple of Broncos, and bounced around on the back of a couple of steers when I was in my teens. And that kind of a life actually is in some ways a very interesting parallel to the life the ego presents to us, because we're always on a bucking bronco when we are entrenched in our ego. So it goes on to say, what would you see without the fear of death? What would you feel and think if death held no attraction for you? Very simply, you would remember your father. See, and that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier here. That whole idea of death is the belief that you can separate yourself from God. And you wanted to attempt that, not realizing what the circumstances and conditions of it was. We created this little ego. This ego is a guarantee of death, but it's only the death of the body. You can kill off 25 bodies over 2,000 years, all these incarnations, all of these experiences, and yet the truth is, all you're going to do is just go down dirty and then wake up in a new body. See? So the illusion of death is something that we have put so much power in that it has created a blockage so that we can't experience that return home. We can't experience that nurturing that comes forth from the fount within us where God resides. The creator of life, the source of everything that lives, the father of the universe, and of the universe of universes. Wow. See, we're going beyond just this idea of, this tiny concept of man in relationship to creation. And of everything that lies, even beyond them, would you remember? So you're allowing yourself to be seduced by the ego, and the ego is blocking your memory of this magnificent heritage that is yours, and of this astonishing opportunity that you can have throughout the day to feel that peace and to know that everything's all right. I think that's probably the hardest thing for most people, is that even with all of the affirmations we use, even with all of the little pep talks we give ourselves, we, at the end of the day, have this sublimated sense that something is not right. See, there's that discomfort that's always in the background. And that's because we have blocked our connection to our divinity. It's very, very simple. It's not a hard thing at all to work your way through. So it goes on and says, and this memory rises in your mind. Peace must still surround a final obstacle, after which is salvation completed, and the Son of God entirely restored to sanity. For here your world does end. In other words, this world we have created will come to an end, and it will end in love. It will be consumed in love. There will be no casting out. There will be no thrusting people into the pit. There will be no glorious and victorious assault on God's creation. God doesn't condemn anybody. He knows you're having a bad dream, or she knows you're having a bad dream. Once again, a matter of semantics. But nonetheless, the whole core of all of these thoughts is that you have the power at your fingertips to restore yourself to a state of grace, to be completely absolved of everything that you believe you've done, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And even more importantly, the power to absolve everybody around you. You know, you can say, oh, I forgive Joe Blow down there for that nasty thing he did last week. Well, that's a hollow statement unless you have received forgiveness. You cannot give what you do not have. So the journey back is reaching out to the Christ within you, accepting that forgiveness, and then extending that forgiveness to everybody around you. It's very, very simple. It's very, very profound. And at the end of the day, it's really the only work that is worthy of our attention here in this material world. So we're going to wrap it up for April 4th, and that means in about 7 days I'll be returning. We'll be looking at the book again. If any of you have questions about the Course in Miracles or would like for me to address specific things, please do shoot me an email. You can find me on Facebook, Chris Anderson One Feather, and you can find my website for Course in Miracles at www.themiraclewithin.org. And if you go to the website, you will find other ways to contact me, and we will all be blessed together. That's the beauty of the way this works. So get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and I will see you in 7 days.